Thank you all from all over the world for joining us today. And more importantly, thank you for your dedication to RTI, your time, your interest in it. If you're new to RTI and only been programming with Integration Designer 10 and Apex, or if you're a seasoned veteran who's been using Integration Designer from the start, you've seen the immense capabilities of the programming software itself, paired with the incredible product lines that we have. And the time has come for us to step up to the fastest programming software ever. We've always touted very cool features, but the features make so much. You can do so much with features and benefits of product line. But when software starts to upgrade and make your lives easier in terms of programming and speed up and reduce overhead costs of programming, and we all know labor is extremely expensive these days. Being able to reduce the amount of labor costs involved to actually make you more money, those are all things that are top of mind with RTI. So welcome to Integration Designer 11. Today's topics, we're going to cover quite a few, and they're not limited to these things, but they're going to include things like how to open up an Apex file in ID11, what system manager versus room proxy means, what the how to build a new project, what the driver store looks like, how to navigate through the different sources, how to update, more important, how to adjust your thinking when it comes to laying out what that program is going to look like on the system itself and where things need to belong. And Vincent's going to go through and really make give you a great example and demonstration of exactly what to expect from this. As I said at the beginning, my name is Tyler Nelson. I am the National Training Manager and Director for RTI. With me today is Mr. Vincent Bova, our Director of Dealer Experience. And he'll be walking us through how to navigate through the change of Integration Designer 10 and Apex to Integration Designer 11. We may have a couple other people from RTI jumping on as panelists here today, but as I said before, if you do have any questions, please feel free to post them in the question and answer section, and I will answer those, or Vincent will answer those, or any of our other panelists that jump on. We'll answer those as quickly as we can. We will, of course, have time at the end for a live Q&A, so you'll be able to unmute, if you want to, and talk directly with us, or just type in your questions in the question and answer, and we can go through those. We are recording this session. We did record the previous session, and once these two are complete, we'll mesh them together, make sure we get all the questions set up in there, and then post the video probably later, maybe by tomorrow, if not early next week, on the RTI training site. So stay tuned for that in case you happen to miss a session or a part of the session. If you do have any programming specific related questions, like, hey, my program's not doing this with ID11, send those directly to us. We'd rather not do it on a Q&A level here. We'd rather be able to get the file, work with you on those types of things. So let us know how we can help. You can send those either dealer experience at rticontrol.com or training at rticontrol.com. So let's kick it off. Before we begin, you need to understand that Integration Designer 11 is the next step in the evolution of our award-winning CEDIA Product Hall of Fame programming platform, Integration Designer. It incorporates numerous features that have been developed in past iterations and some new ones to create our most powerful programming software platform yet to date, and capable of handling any size project, size, and scope. You need to update this today. There's no reason to wait. It's been a constant evolution. We want to make sure you have the latest and greatest, so make sure to update today. In any sort of Integration Designer or updates to the platform, we want to make sure you have as many resources as possible. Now, Integration Designer 11 added in some very cool new features, which Vincent is going to talk about, but we want to make sure that you have all those resources. So we've created a designated Integration Designer page on our website that'll have things like a training calendar on it. It'll have an FAQ on it, common FAQs. That's why we ask you to put all the questions and answers, or questions, in the question section, so that we can keep making that FAQ larger and more comprehensive. And you'll see some more webinars coming down the road for all sorts of different trainings. And we're going to have recorded sessions. We're going to have some new small RTI Excel modules that will come into play. In fact, we're going to do a full boat training, soup to nuts, on the whole and instructor-led training here, probably the second week in May, to kind of walk through the entire process, start to finish, so that you can see a full-on project, full-scale large project. So we're trying to provide you as many resources as possible. But if you do have any questions during the time frame that we've are producing all of these, and these things do take time, you always feel free to reach out to your sales representative, reach out to Vincent, reach out to myself. We're absolutely happy to help you walk through this and navigate any obstacles that you might have while you're working with Integration Designer 11. And more importantly, it's so packed full of features, as we've mentioned before, that these overwhelming number of time-saving features and the beautiful new template that we've created. The idea is to create two things. One, an incredible experience for the user, so that it's fluid, it's functional, they don't have any questions, they touch upon it, works, all that kind of fun stuff that RTI is so well known for, whether it's putting on a family picture as a background on a KX7S in the wall as the screensaver, or whatever you want to call it for the time being, or being able to have as I mentioned before, a time-saving programming process for you to help increase your bottom line. We want to make sure that you have the best in the business. So the time is now. Download the update today. There's no reason to wait. And begin programming with it today. All your new projects got to go with Integration Designer 11. But I've rambled on enough. I could list out everything you can expect from stepping up from Apex Integration Designer 11, but I'm going to turn it over to the one, the only Mr. Vincent Bulba, and he's going to walk you through these new features and help change your mindset and understanding about Integration Designer 11 and going from that Apex level. So Vincent, floor is yours, my friend. Take it away and show them how it's done.
Tyler, thank you so much. That was a lot of information and some good information. All right, everyone, let's get going. You're probably at a point now where you're really excited about the future, but you're uncertain about some things. And we're going to try to put your mind a little bit at rest. What I have here on my desktop is that Taylor resonance file that we hopefully programmed in our Apex training. Since this is a transitional class from Apex to ID11, we're going to kind of assume that you've had experience with Apex, and hopefully whether you went to the course or not, you'll probably have some Apex files like the Taylor resonance. Now, to open an Apex file in ID11, you don't have to do anything special. Again, it's a continuation of the software. In fact, even ID10 or Apex was a continuation of ID9. The only difference was we couldn't upgrade ID9 files because we had a whole different structure and feature set that was very difficult, if impossible, to convert. But now you can. So now you can open up your project by simply double-clicking it. And when it opens up, of course, it's going to give you that reminder that, hey, this was created in an older version. Now, I hope that you've backed up your file, not because of ID11, but because whenever you see this message in general, you should always back up your version. You're about to upgrade to a different version of the software. And as we know, different versions bring features and changes. And it's always good to have a time series of your project files. So hopefully you did that, and you should do that. So yeah, I'm going to upgrade this, and that's all you need to do. Now, just because, it was a seamless upgrade, that doesn't mean a lot of things have happened. And I'm going to start to show you some of the things that have happened first internally. Now, internally, a lot kind of happened behind the scenes. A lot of different, first of all, the system manager. We all know that the system manager is central to ID11 and keeps track of important information such as, your rooms, your activities, your sources and states. And it's used to determine which pages and layers to show, which macros to run, which text variables to show. And it's really the focal point of ID11. Now, your system manager is going to be behind the scenes. And so you can expect your Apex files to have more variables, even though you're probably not taking advantage of them right away. Let's talk a little bit about that. So when you open your file, you're not going to notice anything physically different, but you will notice now if you go to, I'll just click on this home page here, and I'll just go to my layer here and look at some of the system manager variables. So system manager lives just where your drivers live, okay? And it kind of takes the place of room proxy. Not only does it take the place of it, but it adds a ton of other variables here. So for every room, you're going to have variables for that room. You're also going to have all the selected room stuff, which was in room proxy previously. Your in-use variables, which are really going to be useful, some layer visibility that are mostly used for the Coral template, but they can be customized into your own private template. We'll talk about that in a bit. And we've also rolled the clock driver, basically, well, not the clock driver, but all the functions of the clock driver rolled into System Manager. So even though your system looks the same, behind the scenes, you've added quite a few variables. So if you open this up in a file that's got a lot of variables, you have to be weary of the limits that are set in this software. Again, that's only for large projects. Okay. All right. So let's take a look. A lot of people ask, well, how do I convert this now to an ID11 template? Now, I'm not going to say I recommend or not recommend doing that within the software. Personally, if it was me, though, I would just build this out using Coral, because having the foundation of the Apex system might be a little cumbersome to convert it to Coral, and you might be able to program this much faster in Coral. That said, I do want to show you what considerations you need to make when you're thinking about stuff like this, okay? All right, let's look at the first obvious thing in the software that's going to be different than if you used ID11 from the beginning. If you select a controller, there's a room list here. We showed you this in the last class, and this is how you control which rooms are in your room list, okay, on a controller level. So maybe you want to cut off access on the iPad to maybe the office, because that's your, office. That'll go to the top, because that's your private room. So this is where you do that kind of thing, but none of the rooms are going to be checked. So this will have to be done at some point if you're bringing this up to if you're going to convert this to a Coral template and kind of have this project live happily ever after in ID11 in a completely different template, taking advantage of all the features of ID11. Okay. Now, we talked about Coral template, and while we're on that subject, you can see what we have the old template here. There's no Coral template. We're missing dashboards, the menu-driven system, the area where you select button menus or list menus and then have the buttons that are assigned to do so. We're going to talk a lot about those commands. You don't have all the different layers like the back layer, which is useful when you jump from an audio or video source to an other type of source. Now a back button will show up, allowing you to jump back to your last source in use. Now you might say, oh, well, we have the previous page feature, which will take me back to my source. What's the difference in this one? Well, the difference in this one is that it knows how to jump back to your last source in use, no matter how many times you hop. So if I go from my home page to my lighting control, to my climate, to my garage in this system file, then check the weather and then click back, it will go back, not to the last source I used, but we'll go back to the last source in use, an audio or video source that was active. So there's lots of different advantages, and the layer-driven system is going to be much different. All right, so that's the Coral template. That's going to obviously be different. And we'll talk about how to import that also. There's not going to be any tracking or accurate variables from the system manager. So you're not going to mysteriously have the ability to track what's in use or what's currently selected, just by, opening this up in the software. You kind of have to go through the motions of System Manager. And as you can see here, let's see if I open one of these layers here, the activity layers, if I click on a activity, you can see all the programming is done here on the button, which we all know by now is not how ID11 works. ID11 programs in the System Manager. So even if you have 15 iPads in the room, 20 iPhones, and 15 different other controllers, you only have to program in one single location. So that's a big benefit of the System Manager. And so now you'll have a whole different programming methodology. So that's something you'll need to consider. Okay. Again, we'll revert back to this when we show you what we're thinking that you need to do. Okay. So selected, we all know that when you select a room in Apex, it uses room proxy, which was the way to track rooms in our software. Now we have System Manager, which can track the rooms. And if you look at any of the room selection variables, they're not going to come from room proxy anymore. All the features of room proxy have now been rolled into System Manager. Okay. And, System Manager becomes a lot more important to the software, and not only useful when you're doing multi-room projects, even single room projects, System Manager comes in to play. Okay. So you'll find all of your previous room proxy assignments are now pointed to System Manager, and we'll do a good job of that. So this file here, if I loaded it up right now on my processor and I updated all the firmware on all my controllers and processors and any other equipment, everything will be working just as it did before. If I may need to make a quick change for the client, like maybe he adds a room here, I can program this just like I did before. Okay. So we recommend upgrading to ID11, and until you're comfortable, using the methodologies we teach you in ID11, you can always perform maintenance for your client simply by using the knowledge set you've already have. So a lot of people ask, I just took the Apex training, the instructor-led courses. Was that a waste of time? Absolutely not. A lot of those concepts, although they're a little bit below the surface of the new ID11, they're still there, and you're still going to need them if you want to do some heavy custom work. Okay. All right. Let's talk about some of the other features in here. So to summarize, the macros are now all programmed on a controller level rather than programmed in System Manager. And that means you're not going to get the tracking, and you're not going to get that funnel and the ability to have deselection events and other things. We'll remind you of all that in a bit. Okay, remember the area now where you're doing location. So in the file system properties, in this software, you could set the location, the clock, and the Wi-Fi network to here in the system properties, and they'll filter down to the remotes that need them. Well, there's going to be a weird thing that will happen when you open an Apex file in ID11, and I just want everyone to know about it for the time being until we correct it. It's not really a bug, it's just a little bit of an inconvenience. It will revert your location and clock to the last file you programmed in ID11, okay? Whatever that is, okay? And if it doesn't, and if you never programmed an ID11, it might just revert it to default values of the Minnesota values, okay? But It's not done for a reason, but this is a good opportunity to go in and put your location, clock, and 802.11 network in, as it will filter down to the rest of the controllers in your system. So kind of an oddity. I don't know if it's a bug or if it's by design, but if it is a bug or if it is an inconvenience, we'll fix it. But for now, you do have to go to your properties and ensure that they're correct. The reward for that, though, is that now all of your information that's on the remote level, well, let's click on a remote that makes a difference here, like the T4X, for example. You don't have to worry about filling out your clock once you do the system properties, and you'll check this off to use the system default. This is usually checked off by default when you're doing the system from scratch, okay? So you'll have to know these things. 802.11, this will come from the system properties. So since we didn't enter one in there, this will funnel through once you enter it in, okay? So little things to know about how the system properties work in both the overall project and the individual remotes. Okay, let's talk about the driver versions. So this is a really cool feature. And now that you're taking advantage of some of the ID11 functionality, if you click on a driver, any driver, and that driver is out of date, whether you're an ID11 or Apex, in this case, we're upgrading from a pretty old file, this will tell you if the driver is out of date. So that little gear has an exclamation point and it says driver update available. And if you click this, it'll tell us, would you like to update the driver? Your version is this, new version is that. If you select OK, it will go out to the system manager through the integrated driver store, I should say, and update the driver instantly. So that's one of the great advantages of having an Apex file open in ID11 and maintaining an Apex file in ID11 is that you're going to be able to take advantage of all the benefits of the integrated driver store. You're also going to be able to access the store page and have your files all stored into the old Apex file now in ID11. Okay, so that's a really cool feature that you'll see different in your Apex file, even though you're still business as usual. You still, this is still programmed like the old way, and that's fine. Okay, driver files will be included in the installation. Got to that. It'll also always require a weather update. So if you built your Apex file, a day ago or a week ago, and now you update to ID11, you will always have to update your weather driver. And the reason why I know that is because we've created a new version weather driver for ID11. So you'll always at least have to update your weather driver, no matter how new your Apex file that you're opening in ID11 is. So again, it's just a matter of that, and it's updated. That's it. Now, if I re-click on the weather driver here, you're going to see that that gear and that message has gone away. Okay, and we all know that there's integrated driver stores now. So if I go and add anything, I can take advantage of that. Okay, so that we also know that if you're doing a new project, you don't even have to add the weather driver. It's already included. All right. Now I'm going to open up a file and show you some of the new functionality we've added in ID11. So this is the Apex file, but before I do that, I just want to show you what would you need to do to convert this, okay? Now, obviously, if you add another controller, okay? So if we go and add another controller here and I select another iPad and I click, next, you'll then be able to add an ID11 type of functionality. You could specify the type of menu you want, list menus or button menus, and the type of dashboard you want, and select the pages you need. So it's pretty easy to do it this way. I'm going to recommend you do it this way. But if you don't do it this way, you're going to have to do a lot of nitty-gritty work. For example, on your homepage here, you're going to have to merge pages in or use the page wizard for Coral. Now, the problem is, since you didn't create a iPad from the beginning and you add, let's say, a home page here, whoops, and I insert that here for the Coral system, you're now going to have a mixed bag of layers. It doesn't know what type of menu system you want, so it's going to give you both of everything. A list menu, a button menu for rooms. Okay, so let's break this down and show you how this is going to work. I'm just going to select none of the layers here. So here's my source menu, right? There's also going to be a room menu and a room menu list, as well as a source menu list, okay? In addition to the button menus, okay? So you're going to have to remove these layers, at least the ones you don't want. So if you're using list menus, you need to remove the button menu layers. If you're using button menus, you got to remove the list menus, okay? And you also have to remove the left menus because we have one for a global area and we have one for a room area. Again, you didn't add the controller, so it kind of gives you everything. So although, again, I'm going to recommend that you just create it from scratch. But if your system is large, you do have some work to do. And it might be a little, it might be a situation where you just have a lot of small chores to do, okay? And I recommend adding all your layers and not removing these until you're finished adding all your pages. Meaning now go to your DirecTV, go and bring in your, use the page wizard here to bring in your DirecTV for the Coral template. So you'll get all those layers again. So there's no point in deleting them after you add your home page. So I'll just go and add my cable satellite TV here and add that in. And don't delete your old pages yet, because they might serve as a reference point for now. Okay, but this will inherit all your programming, all your functionality. It's all programmed already, except you have to kind of tell it which layers to use, and everything will be programmed for you for those layers. Okay, so you'll have to go through your whole system and do this, and you have to decide whether this work is worth it. I personally don't think so, but I know there's some large files out there, and you're going to want to, manage your own expectations on how long this takes. Then, if you want to take advantage of System Manager, you're going to have to go to these, let's say you're using let's say you're using list menus. If you're using list menus, you should be fine, because now you could just go to System Manager for each room here and program this. But if you're not, if you're using button menus, okay, and we'll go back to that home page here, pretend we're using button menus for the sources, okay, here you'll have to go and redrag your tags over. Now, here's the problem. Let's pretend I go and add a tag here for the Apple TV, and I go to my tags and I find, or my Blu-ray, because I don't think I have an Apple TV. I go and bring in my activity tag for my Blu-ray. It's going to wind up giving you the programming on the button level, because it's going to associate your tag now to your old system. Okay. What you have to do in this case is really remove this information. You just have to remove it. Okay. Because it's not useful. You'll have to also remove your page link. Okay. So you'll go up and select none. And the reason why is because in the software, we don't have that's not the way you program System Manager. The way you program this is to bring in, you have your tag now, and now you need to go and bring in a command here called select activity in the current room. And you're going to pick, in this case, the Blu-ray if it existed in this room, which it don't. But that's how it would work. You would have to go and select the button menu in this room. So you have some work to do. I mean, it's not exactly a seamless process to convert an Apex file to a Coral template, but it is a very seamless process if you want to continue programming your Apex. You're doing, continue performing maintenance on this Apex project in using ID11, Apex methodology. And then when you're doing new projects, you use the ID11 from scratch features. So don't worry about it. If the client asks for another device for your Apex system, give them another device. You don't have to reinvent the wheel now. We don't expect you to. Okay? All right. Let's go and build a new system file. And if you have any questions, just fire them away. But I'm going to go and build a new system file here in my Integration Designer 11, just to show you some of the functionality. So I'm going to go File, New, and we'll call this Project ID11. Okay. And we're going to now add our master processor. We'll add an XP6. Okay. And in this room, I'm just going to create a hypothetical 4-room system, 2 rooms with audio. So in this room, and I'll just go and type them in. We have a family room. Okay. We have an office. We have a kitchen. And we have a patio. Okay. Then we'll go and add our television and other sources in the family room. So I'm going to go and put my Samsung TV here. Now you might notice that we've also revolutionized the way we've named some of these drivers and the way they're going to appear when you add them. Now, if you go and add your, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to add my controller. Let's do that first. I'm just going to go and add a global iPad for now. So let's just add that real quick. I don't have to add it now because the beauty of System Manager is you don't even need to add your controllers at first. You could just program all the macros. So let's just add this first just to get you in the right frame of mind here. And now we'll go back to our driver here and program our Samsung TV in this room. So I'm going to use this one, family room. And so it just calls it TV, which is a little bit of a turnaround from, we kind of simplified these names. So you'll just call this family room TV, okay? And we don't need a page in this case, so we'll uncheck that. Add device. Now, the first time you do all this and it goes out to the driver store, it will ask you for a login. You'll simply enter in your credentials and it should store that in memory, okay? We'll also add a Yamaha receiver in this room, okay? So we'll add a Yamaha, and I'll just use the Music Cast because that will work for the newer Yamaha series. And again, if we add this to the family room, it just calls it Zone 1. So be descriptive with your names because if you add audio zones too, it'll call it Zone 1 as well. And then what will happen is you won't be able to distinguish which Zone 1 it is. Is it my audio Zone 1 or my video Zone 1? Or is it my Zone 1 for my receiver versus my AD4X? So we're going to call that Zone 1 AVR for now. And again, we don't need a page for that. And add our device. Okay, let's add our video sources. So I'm going to start with my DirecTV. Whether we use a driver or not, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to use my infrared for now because the templates won't need to have the device connected. And this way, if I load up a virtual panel, I can show you what it looks like and not expect any feedback. So I'll use port 1 here, and we'll call this DirecTV family room, okay? And we'll create a page for that. So this all programs exactly the way it did in the previous version of our software, Apex. So was your training in vain? No. All this technique and all of this concepts, where do I place sources, is all part of ID11. Okay, so let's add that Roku player. Okay, and we'll add a We'll add a Blu-ray player here. We'll add a Sony Blu-ray, and we'll add that to our, for our family room here. Select the port. We'll call this Blu-ray family room. Add the device. And then we'll just add our audio distribution. So we have an 84X for every zone. I'm going to go to my 84X, zone 1, family room. And doesn't matter if we create a page, it won't create it. But you see how it calls it zone 1 as well? So we'll just call this zone 1 84X. Add device. Then we'll move on to our next room, the office. That is using zone 2. So we'll call this zone 2, 84X. You can call it zone 2 office too, but that might be confusing as well. And we'll add that device. The kitchen and patio audio only rooms. So we'll call this zone 3 84X as well. And we'll make sure we'll set that as the room's audio source. And zone 4 for the patio, same story there. Audio only room, zone 4 84X. Okay. Now we'll go program the office really quick. So we'll go to the office and we'll add the office TV, which is a Sony Google TV. So I'll go look for a Sony Google TV. Here's my Bravio Google. I'll add that to my office. Okay. Same thing. We won't use that as the room audio source. We do have a sound bar, but we'll call this TV office. Nice and simple. If you want to put the brand name in there, that's fine. Whatever you want to do. I'll just put it in just to show you that example. Okay, add that TV. And we'll add a Sony sound bar in this room. I'll look for a Sony sound bar in my infrared area. Here they are. I'll add the HTA series to my office. We'll add the room source as volume control, since it's controlling the room's volume control. Assign the port, and we'll call this office soundbar. Okay, no page needed unless you want one. Okay, and then we'll add our sources in this room. Okay, so an Apple, we'll just add an infrared Apple TV. Select the port, Apple TV Office. It doesn't matter if you mistype it because this is not what's going to show up in my list menus. Add that device. And then we'll add our PC mode source. And this is going to be just a page set that allows the client to kind of watch his, TV on the big screen, with his computer on the big screen, I'm sorry, using the Office TV. So his desktop computer can access that TV, and we'll call that PC mode. Okay, so that room is done. The kitchen and patio don't have local sources, so we'll throw RTI music in the global area. Okay, RTI music. Okay.
Hey, Vincent.
Yes.
We have a request if you could throw a U3, say in the patio or something.
Yeah,
not a good training.
It's not a U3 training. That's going to take eat a little bit of time. But I can send you the U3 video training link if you want. Was that the purpose of it, to show you how?
They just wanted to see how it would behave in ID11 as you add them in.
Okay, I'll add it in. So I'm going to first go with RTI music, put that in the global area, click next. Now, you first add the server. You don't need a page for this. All this does is say, go out to my system and find any MS3 players. So you'll get a return. Okay, it found 2 of them. I have 2 in my system. One of them is a beta one. So I'm going to just go and add the 3 players for my MS3. I'm just going to add 1 for now. That's all I need to add. Player 1. We'll call this player 1 RTI music. Okay, and we'll create a page for that. Okay, then we'll also add just an anything source. So we'll add an Ecobee thermostat. And we'll put a thermostat in here. Okay, we'll call this main T-stat, or whatever you want to call it. And we'll create a page for it. Now, if you do have individual room remotes, you can add them now or add them later. It doesn't make a difference because all of this is handled. All the macros are programmed in one location. They're not programmed on the remotes anymore. So if I have a U3 in my patio, we'll go and specify U3. Doesn't make a difference what remote we use. Okay, and we'll decide what pages we want to see on our U3. Yeah, I'll do the weather. I don't need a server. I need my RTI music. I could put my thermostat. Don't need a home page if I don't want one. AD4X doesn't need an actual page. I can create a home resting page, I guess, but just to eliminate time, let's remove that. We'll call this U3 patio, okay? Oops, I'm sorry, I didn't add it. I clicked back by mistake, U3 patio, the joys of having a new mouse. Let's just uncheck these and try that again. Okay, we'll add that device to the patio. Okay, so now that we've added our sources, okay, you'll go and configure your drivers, okay? And the only driver I'll really configure, well, let's just see. I don't have to configure this one. This one is kind of annoying if you don't just give it a name. I'll call that family AVR. Just real quick. The 8064, it's better if you program this from a macro standpoint. I'll use serial in this case. I only have one source in this case. And it's RTI music 1, I'll call it, just in case I want to add one layer later on. Zone names, we have 4 zones. We have a family room. We have an office. And we have a kitchen and patio. And it'll make our macro programming a lot easier if we do this. Sony Bravia, don't need to program it. RTI music is already done. Ecobee, I guess we could call this main thermostat. Okay, so just to make our macros a little bit better. Now, I refuse to click on the interface because we don't have to worry about the interface. The interface is already done for us for the most part. If we want to make small edits, we could do that later. But now is where we program our macros, okay? Now, before we begin, I want to show you some of the functionality, though, that's available on our interfaces, okay? So I'm just going to select the home source for the iPad and go over some of these variables that we've added. Just give me a second to set up this screen with the right there we go. Just want to make sure that this sets up correctly. Let's get rid of source and power. Okay, and we'll get rid of this too. All right, so this is what the ID11 default screen will offer, at least on an iPad, okay? All the remotes will be different, but kind of the same in terms of functionality, okay? Now, since this is a multi-room controller, you get a room button, okay? Now, one of the features we've added to the software, which is really cool, is that if you add a iPad to a global area and you only have one room, you don't need to select the room. It'll automatically default to the one room in the system. So lots of you go into clients' houses and you only do one room, but you don't want to put your iPads in that one room. You want to put them in the global area. But in the past, you worried that if you do that, now the client's got to select a room, and it doesn't make sense to select a room when he only has one room. So now, by default, if you only had one room in your system, let's say it was the family room activities would automatically show up here, and it would be automatically selected. Okay, let's take a look at some of these buttons and features. The first tag and functionality I want to show you, and let me just move this up a little bit, is the tag called System Show Menu, okay? That's this one, and this is going to show, this is the tag, System Show Menu. That's automatically going to program a show menu command, also available in the macro steps, okay? And this can be set to show activities, room, or power, okay? In this case, we want this to show our sources. And when you press this, if your power menu is showing for some reason and you press that button, this would go away and now your sources would show up. So that's the beauty of the show menu. These also light up when they're in use. So when your sources are in use, the source list is visible, meaning this button will reverse state. So you know which one is which, okay? And by programming a system show menu on your own templates, you'll have an easy time there, okay? All right, there's also this show room list, and that's this one. System show room list will program a global macro that will just show the room menu, and it will reverse state when the room is selected, when the room menu is visible. And that looks the same, so you won't see a distinction. But if you have sources shown up on the screen and press that, that'll go away and show your rooms. Then when you press this, it'll automatically trigger your variable. We'll talk about this one in a bit. The next one is system show power, and that's this one. So this will show your power menu, and of course, it'll reverse state as well. So now your power menu will show up, okay? Now on your power menu, you're also going to have some special functionality also. But first, let's look at some of these other tags. We'll get back to that. You have a tag called System Selected Room, and that's going to be, well, it'll be here in the room name, but we've also programmed a command there that will, you could actually use this to select the room if you want. Also, just a little feature in the software that we actually program something on here to show the rooms, but it'll also display using this text tag, System Selected Room. So that will always show you on any control, on any room, even if it's not in global, what your selected room is. So just by putting this variable or tag in the individual rooms, you don't have to hard code the name of the room, okay? Here's a cool feature. And this will work even in individual rooms again, okay? It just so happens that this also has a command on it that will do the same thing as this button. It'll show the room menu, which is just a convenience touch. So that's selected room. We've also have room list. So when you're displaying your room list, this browsing list would be system room list. And this will make sure it's auto programmed to display your room list and allow you to select a room from the list. Okay, so that's the way you do it now. Okay. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Now we have system menu, and that's on your source menu. This will program a tag called system menu, which will now program, system menu, which will automatically program a way for you to access your sources in any of the rooms. It'll automatically program this. So it'll show the office source list when the office was selected and allow you to select the office lists sources as well from the list. Okay, so you have all of these auto programmed just by using this system menu in a browse list. Okay, then you also have system room off. Okay, and that would be in the power function. Oops, get rid of this. In the power function, you have this system room off, which will tell the system manager turn off whatever the current room is selected. So if you selected office, then select the power button, this would turn off the office and it will run through the deselection events on all the activities in the office in that case. Turn off lights is just not a standard tag. You'll program this if you want to turn off the lights in the room. You could remove this if you don't have lights. That's no problem. Turn off the whole house AV. Now, this is a very special command in the tag function, power off all rooms. This is a really cool function because this will turn off whatever rooms are actually on. So if just your office was on, it will only turn off your office. If your family room and office and kitchen were on, it won't turn off the patio because that's not even on. So this knows what's on and turns off what's on. And this is just, again, not a standard tag. And if you don't have lighting in your system, you don't need it. So these standard tags here will tell a system manager to run all the deselection events. Now, this one over here is a really cool one, system source return. wherever you put this tag, it'll code up a source return command. It could also be found in the macro steps here, source return. Now, what this command will do is it will take you back to your last source in use, okay? And the cool part about this is that it'll only show up when this source return is visible. That means that the end user was watching audio or listening to audio or watching video, and then he selected a source we categorize as other. So that means if he goes from the, let's say, RTI music, and then he goes to the home page, this back button will show up. Then if he jumps to the lighting page, or in this case, climate page, right, this back button, will show up, okay? So if he hits back now, this won't take him back to the home page. It'll take him back to RTI music. That's the last source in use. So just by programming, go back to the home page because that layer is not unlocked. You just put a system source return on your back button. It'll automatically program this and make it only visible on other type of sources. So a really great feature in the software, something that dealers have been asking for a long time also. I can't begin to tell you how many times I've heard that. In the past, you'd have to use flags and things like that. Now let's jump off System Manager and go into some of the other tags we've added, which are really cool. I'll just use the Roku as an example. In the Roku template, we have different apps. We have different apps here that are programmed here. Now, if you're using, you probably use the driver, but what it will do is if you type in the name of the app, the tag, app : and put in the name of the app, this will automatically populate whatever's in the actual driver. The driver works a lot better. In fact, let me just quickly add that real quick. Just going to add the Roku driver to the family room. We'll call that Roku. I don't remember what the IR one had, but I just want to add this real quick. We'll call that Roku family room. I'll make it player just so I can distinguish. Okay. All right, that's better. And now we'll just delete this from the system. We don't need that. Okay, now with the Roku family room player, you're going to see that these are all hard-coded because these are all in the driver. And we know drivers have extra functionality. Now, the cool part about these tags, App Netflix, App Prime Video, they work on every device, even IR devices, but the app has to exist in the library. If I went and changed this to something else, like if I just removed the word Netflix and I just did HBO Max and hit enter, this will populate HBO Max. If I went in here and I'm just guessing now, I'm just going to guess this one, Sling TV. It'll populate Sling TV. This is really cool. So it kind of sniffs out all the apps and does that. Just like, on my Blu-ray in the family room, if I wanted to change this system button to Netflix, I would just give this a tag of app : Netflix. It'll automatically populate that. So we've added this app tag, app : tag, and you put in the favorite app name. Now on lighting, we've went and changed a lot of tags. I'm just going to add lighting real quick and show you how this all works. We add a cassette system real quick. And you'll see if you add the cassette system that it will now ask you what page template you want to use. So obviously now you can select lighting. And that's a new feature we added for anything that didn't create pages or is not optimized for the software yet. So we'll add Lutron cassette here. And we'll create a page. Okay. Now we have a new way of programming lighting, at least in some instances. Now, if you just have a regular cassette system, you could change this to the name of the load. You could change this. You'll change this tag to something specific like light level, maybe ID 10 or whatever the ID integration ID is for that load. But if you'll notice that all of these are all the same tags. This says light level. This says light level. However, you'll notice that they're all on different layers. And the object here is to use this for the leap driver. And when the leap driver is imported into the system, it'll, if you're using RA3 or Homeworks, it'll automatically import Oreo loads. So now all you have to do is go into circuit one now, don't do anything else, and just point this to your lighting load. I'll just pretend that this is my lighting load and click OK. And this will all populate with the lighting information for that load. Since these are all on different layers, they can have the same tag. And if they're aimed at a different source, it'll obtain the source programming and the tag relationship for that source and not conflict with the rest of the page. So we've added these new tags here. Instance ID will populate the lighting load name. Light level will populate the light level. And this one would be light level also, and that will populate the slider for the lights. So really, really cool feature there that we've added. Okay, so those are the source tags and the system manager tags. Let's review system manager and take a look at our interface after we're done. So now with our system manager, we'll go to our activities. Again, the first button, the first column in this list, enable, will allow you to decide which activities are going to be part of your list menu. This stuff doesn't really matter when you're doing button menus, but I would still program this anyway, okay? As if, to make it look like the way you want. Because then you don't have to worry about it if you add a controller with a list menu. All right, so you can enable these or disable these. So I don't need a page for my family room TV, so I could remove that. Let's see if all of these are okay. Well, I do need a home page for my global area, which would take care of my jump to my individual room pages as well. I could also move these up. So I can move this up to the top. I can move weather down below. Okay. I could sort my Roku with my video activities. Okay. Maybe I'll put my Blu-ray first. Okay. And then these are fine. My stat, my cassette, my weather are all together. That's fine. And that's how you'll do it. Okay. Next, so we showed you how to move them up and down in the list and how to decide what shows up in the list. Next, you'll make sure the category is right. Now, the software will do a great job of this, so just spot check it. Okay, make sure all your video is marked video. Make sure your audio is marked audio. Any other devices that are just doing simple little page jumps that don't need to do any input changing or power oning anything, make sure those are other, and that's fine, okay? All right, under activity name, that's where we can name these in a real user-friendly name. So we've done this before, but watch Blu-ray. Okay, watch DirecTV. I'm just going to go and program these with very user-friendly names. For the music, we'll just call this Listen to Music. Of course, if we had more than one feed, we could call this Listen to Joe's Music. And we'll leave that. We'll pretend that this is only one person living here. Main stat, we'll just call this Control Climate. And nobody wants to see brand names for their product, so we'll just call this lighting control. That's all they need to see, okay? So these are all named fine, okay? If you want to call the homepage dashboard or whatever, that's fine too, okay? All right, so once you're done with that, you're now going to program your system manager. Now, we've already said that for other type of sources, these activity events are not very, there's not a lot of them. So for other, you could do an activity selected, okay, which would be, you want to switch inputs. That doesn't make sense for a dashboard unless you were using an XP8V GUI. That would then you'd want to kind of switch maybe when the client hit home on his interface. You could always have the XP8V switch to the home page or the OSD. Activity ready. That's where you do a page jump. Those are all programmed for you. If it's a global controller, it'll jump to the right page. If it's an individual room controller, like the U3, it'll jump to the right page. Deselected is where you do your what do you do when you select a home page, but then you select something else or power off the system? Rarely needed, and it even says you'll rarely need to add anything here, okay? So those are the other sources. Not a lot to program here. In fact, you don't have to do anything. It's programmed for you. If you have to switch inputs or do something when it's deselected, you could do it. But other than that, you could skip them. Family room. So here's where we program our selection events for a video source. And the reason why I know it's a video source is because first it's flagged source type video. And because I flagged this video on instead of audio on and video off instead of audio off is going to show up for this source. Okay. So we'll pretend, we'll pretend that we're programming this for real. Activity start, or that's when the activity starts. So think of this as start activity. It's run when any activity is selected before anything else is done. So this is used to send your controller to a please wait page if you have one. If you don't have one, then fine. If you do, great, add it. And it's used for all activities in the room. So only you have to program it once. I don't have a please wait page, so I'm going to skip it. Room on. This macro is run when you select audio or video and the room is currently in an off state. So this will turn on anything in the family room that shares a common task with the audio and video. Now, if you don't have anything in this room that needs to turn on for both audio and video, you skip this, okay? So in this case, my receiver needs to turn on even if I select the RTI music, since my AVR is connected to the AD4X pre-out through an input. So I could listen to my sources on the AD4X over my surround receiver in my family room speakers. So room on, let's turn on that receiver. So we're going to go and room on this guy. So power on, okay? Video on is going to be run when a video source is selected and the room isn't on a video source. So that means I'm selecting Blu-ray and video on decides to run when I'm either coming from an audio source or a power off state. So what do you have to do for video? And it tells you, use this to turn on video specific equipment like a display or projector. Now, if our receiver did not need to turn on for audio, we would turn it on with the TV here for video on. But since our receiver is shared with the audio, we get rid of it right there in the room on. So I'll bring in a command here and just turn on our TV. That's all. Power on source. Now, this is a really cool one because this will handle both discrete and toggle power. And the beauty of this is it will only turn on this Blu-ray if it's the first room in the home that's using this Blu-ray. Now, we're not using video distribution in this case. There's no matrix switch. So the Blu-ray is just being used in the family room. So you never have to worry about someone in another room clobbering you anyway. But it is a feature I want to highlight, that if you do share sources, like what if this Blu-ray was split to another room? Well, first of all, it would be in global then, but even so, you would have to worry, like, what if I turn off or on the system? Am I going to interfere with someone in that room? Well, it will track this and send it only if it's the first room that begins using this source. So here's where you turn on your Blu-ray player, okay? I'll just hit the P's and take me down to my power ons. And if you only have a play that turns on your Blu-ray, that's fine too, okay? Activity selected. This is where you do the switching. And this is going to run after it turns on the room and the video and the source, okay? You're programming the same macros you've always programmed, except now you're programming them in different slots for the purpose of tracking what's going on and for the purpose of only sending what needs to be sent, okay? So activity selected is where you do your signal routing. So anything that needs to switch, you switch it here. So I'll bring in my command here. For my activity selected, I'm going to switch my Yamaha here. I'm going to go down to my discrete source select, and I'll switch this to HDMI 2, and I'll bring in another command for my TV, and we're going to go here and input source HDMI 1. Okay, so that's where the switching goes. Now, if you select the Blu-ray twice for some reason, it's not going to run this again because you're already on your Blu-ray. Activity ready will already be programmed for you. Room off start, that's where you program a please wait page for those room off commands. And you know where those are. Those are right here on your power off menu. When you run this room off current room, it's going to start running deselection macros. So the first thing it's going to do is it's going to start going through your deselection. So room off start, it's run at the beginning of the room off command. Please wait. If you don't have one, you don't add it. I don't have one. Activity deselected. It's only run after you select an other source other than the Blu-ray or you turn off your system. So if you want to create a provision that pauses the Blu-ray, maybe when you go and grab a score on the DirecTV or your Roku, or maybe, I don't know, anything you want, you can program something here. So I could put a pause here on my Blu-ray player, which would pause this if I select another source, or at least pause it before it turns it off if you power off the system. Let's pause that. Power off source, that's where you program the power off for the source. So power on, copy into power off, and we'll put, if this was a power command that turns it off, we'd use power. This will work fine. And the beauty of this, if I show you the text writing, is that it says this macro is run after no rooms are using this source. So if this was split between the family room and the office, and it was on in the office also, it would not turn it off. And if you turned off the family room, it'll wait for the office guy to turn it off. Okay, so here's where, again, you'll program that power off command for your source. And I'm just going to go here, and I could even use a power toggle since it's not going to send this until it needs to turn off the source. Video off does the opposite of video on. We'll copy this and paste it, and we'll turn off our receiver. Room off is the opposite of room on. Oh, I'm sorry, did I do this wrong? Yeah, no, I did it right. Okay, room on is going to be the opposite of this one. So just turn that off. Room off complete's already programmed. Now, the reason why I showed you this again is because I'm going to show you an easier way to program this, or at least a better way to check your work, okay, and make some quick changes, or just ensure that you've done everything properly. I always recommend programming at least one of these in the room the right way first in the beginning until you get comfortable. But now what I can do is now go up to my global area and I can select my room and activity events. And this will allow me to program every room event by event. So activity start. This is where you put your please wait page. I don't have one, so there'll be nothing in the family room, office, kitchen, or patio. Now let's say I had a please wait page, okay? So I'll go to my page sets here and I'll just throw a please wait page in real quick, okay? Now I can go here to my family room and I can go and bring my page link in and go to my please wait, copy this and do it for my office, do it for my kitchen, and do it for my patio. Awesome. Room off start. That's where you do the please wait page for the room off. If you're not sure, click on it, it'll tell you. So again, you'll just do your please wait pages for all the room off commands in these rooms. Because your room off will need a please wait page if your activities have one. So the client, sees a please wait page knowing the system is running. Room power events. Well, what do you have to do to turn on the family room? We already programmed that. How about the office? Anything in the room that needs to turn on? Well, no, because my office and and the audio system are separate. So I can't turn on my sound bar because it's not used for audio, and I can't turn on my audio because it's not used for video. So what I'll do that in is the audio or video events. Kitchen. Well, I can turn on my audio distribution system because that's the only thing in that room. I'll never need anything else. So I could power on my kitchen here and then copy this to my patio. Okay. So if I want to program my room off in my family room, I already did my family room. My office room off, there was nothing in room on, so there'll be nothing in room off. My kitchen, I had power on to my 8064. So in this case, I'll just power off my kitchen, copy this, paste this to the patio. Get it? Real quick and easy. Okay. So for audio events, you could program all of these. Let's skip down to activity selection events, since you really need to do that for all your sources. So here's where we did our Blu-ray player. So right here, I can go and copy this to my DirecTV. I can change this to HDMI 3. Copy this to Roku. Change this to HDMI 4. RTI music. Paste it anyway, who cares? Change this to audio 1 and get rid of the TV input. We don't need the TV input. Don't need anything here, don't need anything here, don't need anything here. So you see how fast you can program these? This is a way of really doing this lightning fast and checking your work. By the way, there will be another event available in here that you won't see anywhere else. These are room selection events. What happens when you select the family room? What happens when you select the office or kitchen or patio? Now, these will automatically be programmed to jump at least to the home page and show the activities, but you can add on some things here. Maybe you want to, I don't know, pop up a layer of something, or when you select kitchen, pop up a layer of a kitchen icon. I don't know, whatever you want to do, you can add on to this. I don't recommend changing this unless you're really experienced and have a really specific idea, but again, this is RTI, so you can do whatever you want as long as you have good reason. Okay. So this is going to save you a lot of time, but I don't recommend doing this until you become comfortable the other way. But now it's cool because now if I go to my family room, everything is already programmed for me here. Okay. So that's the quick and easy way of programming room selection. Okay. U3, let's jump to the U3 here just to show you how this works. So we have a weather page, we have RTI music. So we have some feedback to programming, which isn't going to be different than anything else. So the way you program the U3 is that you click on the page title and you give it a name, and you can determine how many lines you want to do here. So in this case, 2 lines, I'll just say. And I'll program here. I'll just use quick variables here. I'll go to my weather here and I'll do my current condition temperature, and I'll put a little space, Alt 0176 for the degree symbol. Okay. And now I can remove that space after I enter in that degree. And it'll show up for the temperature outside. If I want to put another variable in here for the weather, I'll put in the, I don't know, maybe I'll put in the condition text. Okay, and this will tell me what the weather is like. RTI music, well, these are easy. You know, I'll only set this to 3 just to save time, but you'll go here and enter in your feedback, like, you'll enter in text tags, make it easier to program. NP title, now playing title. Populates. Go here and we'll do NP artist, now playing artist. Go here and put in NP, text tag, NP album. Okay, so you get the idea. You have to program all these. The stat will have the temperature, maybe the mode, if the fan's on or off, I don't know, whatever you want to do. Lutron Cassetta, maybe it'll just give you feedback of what's on, what's off. Please wait page you don't need on your U3. I could even delete it here if I want. Now what you'll do for the sources is all you have to do is once you've programmed this is that all you have to do is besides dragging in the icons for this, if you want to do that, you can do that. But all you have to do is bring in the text. So again, you just tell this, use the weather, okay? And now this will tell, use System Manager to get the weather selection events. Player 2, RTI music. Drag the RTI music over. System Manager, run the RTI music selection events. Stat, main T stat. You get the idea. Lutron, run the other selection events for the Lutron cassette system. I mean, it's that easy. Oops, let me drag it right. And there you go. And as long as you have your programming done, I can go and add as many interfaces as I want here. Watch this. I already have an iPad. Let's go and add a virtual panel. I'm just going to go to my controllers here, and I'm just going to put in a virtual panel. Here's my virtual panel. I'll add that to the global area, and I'll just eliminate the pages I don't need. Don't need a server. Don't need a TV, AVR. Don't need this. Don't need that. Don't need this. Okay. Don't need these two. And I'll call that virtual panel. I'm going to use list menus. I'm done. I don't have to do anything. I'll put the default size in. And now I'm going to send this over to my system file. Just so I don't have any problems, I'll load a quick iPad license on, just so it doesn't complain about not having a license. Okay. And now I'll go load this up. Send to device. Now, I didn't touch the interface at any point other than to show you the tags. I didn't go in and program any of the page jumps or anything. I did this all in just a few minutes with you and explaining it. And you'll run the Zigbee to U3. You'll need a ZB Pro for that. And I'm going to send my virtual panel over to my desktop. And we'll call this ID11 VP. Yes. Allow access. Okay, let's remove this. Close that out. Now, I didn't configure the weather driver, which I did. So let's do that one time just to give you the right effect. So go here. Don't forget to put the zip code in for the weather driver. That's always going to be needed. Put my zip code in. Then I'm going to go and aim. What I'm going to do just for a fact is I'm going to just aim my layer here, my now playing at RTI music. You'll need to do that too if you select the now playing layer. Okay, and I'll click OK. All right, and that should have populated that, but it didn't. Why didn't that work? Let's see. Did I do that right? Now playing. Oh, I aimed it at the thermostat. Whoops. Sorry about that. And you aim that, and there we go. So now it'll look better. Sorry about that. So let's go and re-sync the processor. That should only take a few seconds. You do your U3, and now you do your virtual panel. And here we go. All right, let's wait for this to configure. I like to close these out just to, okay. So now I have my weather coming in. It's a nice 76 degrees here. I can select here's my activities in this room. I can select the room. Let's see what's going on in the office. Listen to Joe's music. Probably should have shortened that up. You can always take care of it in the list if you want. Control climate. There's my climate. Don't have feedback because I don't have one. Here's my lighting control. I could change my dimmers. I could listen to my music. So let's go and select some music here. So let's go in and select Pandora, my stations. Let's do Alicia Keys. And I don't think you have to hit play now, but you just hit play this station. Now, if I go back to my home page, my home dashboard, which I forgot to add, I guess, Let's just do this. There's my Alicia key showing up there. I can go and change my room to any sources in my family room. There's my Blu-ray. There's my Please Wait page. Here's my DirecTV. There's my Roku with my icons. Of course, I could change if I want. Here's my music, and it'll be playing, of course. And I could always pause this if I want and go back to my home page, and there it is. So that's really how easy it is. All my date and time, my names of my rooms, everything is already programmed for you. Your dashboard, all you have to do is aim your Now Playing at the right layer. That's all you have to do. Let's show you how that back button works. So let's say I'm watching Blu-ray, right? Then I go home. Then I go to weather, right? Then I go to lighting. Then I go all the way to climate. Now I hit the back button, takes me back to my Blu-ray, okay? Now in our regular programming class, we're gonna show you some really cool stuff. We're gonna show you how to use all those variables that are available in the System Manager, and we're gonna show you how to use them, show what's in use, create a page and show some cool statistics, informational, but really cool for a client. And of course, the power off menu will allow me to turn off my room. Now, if I turn off my AV and I put something in the deselection event here to stop my player, then it would not even show it won't track the progress. Okay. And you can do that or whatever, pause it or whatever you want. But all my sources now are shut only unless they're being used in another room still. Okay. Thank you for attending our Stepping Up from Apex to Integration Designer 11 course. We hope this makes your transition from Apex to ID11 easier. We look forward to seeing you in future training classes.